Hi guys, today I would like to speak about an issue which is close to my heart, the state of modern rugby and where we are going to today. As we all know, we are amid the coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, and this has given me a lot of time to reflect on the state of rugby. Personally, as a rugby player, I am dissatisfied to say the least in the state of rugby, especially professional rugby, and the way the game is played and administered at the professional level. A month ago, the World Rugby Union had its elections to elect the chair of the World Rugby Union. Now, as we know, um, the two leading candidates were Augustin Pichot, the ex-Argentinian rugby player, and Sir Bill Beaumont, who was an old England rugby player and captain. Bill Beaumont, otherwise known as Sir William Blackledge Beaumont, is 68 years old. He captained England to 34 caps, and Bill has been the chairman of the World Rugby Union since 2012. That is 12 years. That's 13 years now that he has run for, and the state of professional rugby, just to be honest, it hasn't changed. It hasn't evolved. Other professional sports, you could talk about American football and the NFL, basketball, soccer, cricket. All professional formats have evolved and changed as the fans, the palette of the fans and their desire for different and exciting sports has evolved. Rugby is the one sport that has just insisted on remaining boring and conservative. Bill is an officer of Order of the British Empire and was knighted by the Queen in 2019. He's a Deputy Lieutenant of Lancaster. Remember all these facts, and I'll get to them at the end of the video and explain the relevance thereof. Now, Augustin Pichot, his rival in the election of the to chair for the World Rugby Union, is 45 years old. He is 23 years younger than Bill Beaumont. Pichot played 71 tests for Argentina and played club rugby in various French and English clubs during his time as a professional rugby player. Pichot's journey on the board of World Rugby started in 2009, where he first became a member of the Argentinian Rugby Union Committee. During this time, he was influential and probably the most important person in getting Argentina into the Rugby Championship and the team, the Jaguares, into the Super Rugby competition. This has allowed Argentinian rugby to elevate towards the domestic and professional level, and there's been a certain uprising of rugby talent in the country of Argentina. In 2016, Pichot became the vice president of the World Rugby Union. His first order and the first thing that he wanted to change was the residency rule. So essentially the residency rule at the time was that rugby players would only have to play rugby in a new or adopted country for 3 years for them to play for the national side. He elected and he wanted to change this rule to 5 years. And this is a rule which and a stance which I stand for. I agree with Pichot wholeheartedly, and I agree that you need to spend more time in a country to actually become a patriot thereof and to understand what it means to be a citizen of a new and desired country. In 2020, Pichot lost the chairman election of the World Rugby Union to Bill Beaumont. Pichot had 23 votes in the election and Bill Beaumont had 28. Following this election and the result thereof, Pichot elected to vacate from his position on the World Rugby Union board, one which I completely understand. The man is devastated. He's been trying for years to implement different structures to modernize and evolve the modern game of rugby. Bill Beaumont, on the other hand, the issue with his re-election is where I have trouble, and we'll get to that. So essentially, I can see that Bill Beaumont was elected by men and women who are most certainly out of touch with the current state of rugby and where it should be going. Where rugby should be going is we should be speeding the game up. Officials should not have such an important and a big part in the flow of the game. All they need to do is keep the game safe and restrict any indiscretions. But essentially what's happening, and I can say this as a rugby player, you know, even in the professional game, just as the sides start to play rugby and the ball starts to go and tries start to be scored, line breaks start to occur, referees start to lift their hands up, start giving cards away, and the state of professional rugby today is just, there's so many scrums and lineouts and set pieces, and I don't know about you guys, but for me watching rugby, it's extremely boring. I don't wake up on a Saturday thinking about how many scrums and lineouts I'm going to watch today, and breakdowns, quite frankly. I want to see exciting rugby, I want to see tries, and I want to see contested breakdowns. You know, I want to see a more competitive environment, and not one which is ruled by referees. Bill Beaumont, under his tenure, the game of rugby has become more and more run and ruled, the on-field occurrences have been ruled by referees. Pichot was a younger man who agreed that rugby needs to be kept safe, but at the same time, for Mark. So Augustin Pichot, as I've said before, lost the World Rugby Chairman election, and Bill Beaumont won again for the third time. You know, Bill Beaumont, his administration, not to say that it's been bad or in any way, it's just outdated, to be honest. The man is 68 years old. I personally don't believe that he is capable of chairing the World Rugby Union or of taking it into a direction which the state of professional rugby needs to be taken to, away from this conservative state that it is in currently, and into a more exciting and competitive brand of rugby which fans and even rugby players would like to play and see on our screens at home, you know. Augustin Pichot, as an Argentinian, this election just displays how where you come from affects the altitude of your career. The World Rugby Board is based in England, and Bill Beaumont is an Englishman. Now, I'm not saying that the election was rigged, but there's definitely some bias. And personally, I can see a system which is based on the abuse of power. You know, just the fact that he's now going for his third term or tenure as the chairman of World Rugby displays just a regime almost communist-like, where one leader can just lead for a prolonged period of time, and the people involved just are dissatisfied, but a small amount of people continue to vote for this man because it's personally beneficial to those who elected him. The state of professional rugby needs to change, and it needs to improve. Herein lies the basis of why I believe Augustin Pichot should have been elected as the chairman of the World Rugby Union.